Okay, so let's talk about conviction judgment. You have ever heard about people saying this, you have to manage conviction judgment in order to keep up with the minion set, all that kind of stuff. I'm going to explain that in this video. First, I'm going to explain the basics of conviction judgment. If we look at our runes, we can see that conviction judgment, for conviction, it says it's a 40% chance to imbue conviction to self for 3 seconds. When skill hit, in this state, judgment can be activated to gain additional effect. Okay, so what does this mean? Okay, so for conviction, I have it on my spinning weapon, and as you can see, every time I use my skill and hit every second with every multi-hit to the boss, it's going to activate the conviction buff effect, and it says time to bring judgment. So conviction by itself, it doesn't do anything, it only applies the conviction buff. You can either see the conviction here on your buff bar, or you can see on your character that the conviction is activated. Okay, now by knowing that this is conviction, let's talk about judgment. Okay, so let's talk about judgment. Has 40% chance to remove conviction from self and increase combat resource recovery and reduce skill cooldown for 6 seconds. So what does this mean? In order to activate judgment, as you can see, I'm trying to use it on my grind chain, but it's not displaying. This means that for me to activate judgment, I have to first apply myself with conviction. As you can see, I have it right now. And I have 3 seconds to apply conviction. To apply judgment with this skill. Let's do it right now. I want to apply my conviction. Then, as you can see, I got judgment here on my character, and I have judgment here on this icon. Okay, so we just saw how to activate conviction judgment, but what if we don't want to activate conviction judgment? There is multiple reasons why you don't want to activate conviction judgment, and that's when managing conviction judgment is involved. So as you can see, this says to me that if I want to, I can use my judgment skill to activate conviction judgment. But what if I continue my rotation and I don't want to activate my conviction judgment? I just want to keep DPSing. So in that case, instead of going for our conviction judgment on a spinning weapon, our conviction on a spinning weapon, and then our judgment on grind chain, instead of doing this rotation, we're gonna do it the other way around. Okay, we're gonna use our grind chain and then our spinning weapon. And as we can see, we never activate conviction judgment. Let me reduce the skills cooldown so you can see. So we tried to activate judgment, but there is no conviction, so we cannot activate it. And we can see we just use conviction, but we cannot use conviction because our skill on judgment is on cooldown. So this is how you can avoid to activate conviction judgment. You just use judgment first, and then conviction. By doing this, you will never be applying your conviction judgment. Why you don't want to apply it? It's actually useful to know when you don't want to apply it, because we're going to see later on the video instances where you don't want to use your conviction judgment. Okay, so if we read the judgment buff, we can see that it says combat resources recovery 100%, skill cooldown minus 15%. So in other words, the important thing that we need to know about this buff is that, you get MP, an increase on MP. That's not the actual important thing about judgment. It does help, but what we care the most is the skill cooldown minus 15%. This is the important buff from conviction judgment. And why is important to have the 15% skill cooldown reduction? Well, just follow me and we are going to see how. Okay, so there is one important thing to know. Now that we activate judgment, that is this blue icon that we are seeing on the screen, we are gonna have 6 seconds, if I'm not mistaken, where this judgment is going to be activated. So when we see this icon, we have the opportunity to cast other skills so they can benefit from the 50% skill cooldown reduction. Okay, well, let me show you on the screen. Okay, let me show you how judgment affects your normal skills. This also applies to the awakening skill, by the way. So if we can see, we got 11 seconds on Crew Cutter. on the skill cooldown, alright? And if I apply my conviction judgment, in theory it should be less time because it reduces by 15% the skills, okay? So I'm gonna apply my conviction judgment. As we can see, we got 9 seconds, so we got like a second less for our skills cooldown. And so as you can see, we apply conviction judgment on one skill, but we can actually use a lot of skills on that window. And now let me show you how judgment affect our awakening. All right. Okay. There is one important thing that we need to know about conviction judgment, and it's the thing that once we activate judgment like this, as we have always done, we have 30 seconds of inner cooldown once it's activated, so we can use it again. So as you can see, we just use it one time and we need to wait 30 seconds for use it again, this buff. Let me try to use conviction judgment. As you can see, I'm not activating it. That's because the inner cooldown of conviction judgment hasn't passed the 30 seconds, so we need to wait the 30 seconds. As you can see, we just got it again. So I'm not gonna count the seconds, but let me just spam the skills to demonstrate that I'm not gonna get it. It doesn't matter how many times you do it. So you need to be aware when you're going to activate your conviction judgment. That's why the 30 seconds is very important to know. Okay, now that I just explained the basics of the conviction judgment buff, let's talk about how conviction judgment actually affects the dominion. This one, this. As we can see, we got dominion, and this buff is actually affected by conviction judgment. So as we can see, so the important thing about dominion, I'm not gonna explain the whole set. The only important thing is that when we use our awakening, this is going to activate our dominion set. As we can see, we have a little bit more than a minute for our dominion set to be active, and our awakening skill has a cooldown of 2 minutes. If just by seeing the numbers, we can see that our dominion set is going to expire before our awakening skill comes out of cooldown, and that's a problem. We do not want that. If we are fighting and the fight is very long, this is going to affect our entire DPS. So I'm gonna fast forward the video, so for you just to see the amount of time that we are going to have without our dominion set. So as we can see, our inner awakening or dominion set buff has ended, and we still need to wait like 30 seconds for our awakening to be used again. So this downtime that we have of 30 seconds adds up during all the fight, and that will hinder our entire DPS. So now in this case, we're going to wait for the awakening to be ready. Okay, now we're going to use our conviction judgment and then our awakening during that window. And what you're going to see is that the downtime that we're going to have from our dominion set, when it expires, we're going to have less time of waiting for our awakening to be ready to use. That it will help our entire DPS, because we're going to have less time to wait for our awakening to use again. As we can see, we got like 10 seconds or 12 seconds in comparison with 30 seconds from the last try. That's actually really helpful. So from here, we just wait for our awakening to come out of cooldown and then use conviction judgment again. The judgment buff, it's applied to our awakening again. From there, the cycle repeats. Okay, so now this is when not wanting to apply conviction judgment is important to know. So as we can see, let's just activate our conviction judgment and then use our awakening skill. So at this point, there is one place that we need to keep an eye on. Let's say that we are continuing the fight and we are just like doing our normal rotation. We're trying to activate conviction judgment by doing our spinning weapon into grind chain and then continue just DPSing. But we also need to keep an eye on the awakening skill. So as we just saw early on the video, we have 30 seconds of cooldown, inner cooldown, for our conviction judgment to activate again. And we want to have our conviction judgment ready to activate the moment we got or awakening cooldown ready to use. So the main idea of this is that you're going to continue using your DPS skills by activating your conviction judgment like this. And the moment we see that the awakening skill reaches 30 seconds, instead of doing spinning weapon into grind chain to activate conviction judgment in our rotation, we're gonna do it the other way around. So we don't activate our conviction judgment by accident. But why you don't want to activate your conviction judgment by accident? Because we want to make sure that the moment that we can use our awakening skill, we have our conviction judgment ready to use. So the moment you see 30 seconds on the awakening skill, do not use the normal rotation for activating conviction judgment. Do it like this. You use your judgment and then your conviction. And you just need to wait until your awakening comes out of cooldown to use your normal rotation on how to active conviction judgment. So in this case, it's going to be active for awakening, then we use conviction judgment. And now we use your awakening to benefit again from the conviction judgment. And this is the entire cycle. From this, we just repeat. Okay, now let me explain you why it's not good to use your conviction judgment when we are under 30 seconds for our awakening to be used again. And I'm gonna show you this more visually, but essentially there is 30 seconds of inner cooldown for conviction judgment to activate, and if we use it like right now, we see we got conviction judgment, but we cannot use or awaken it yet because there is like 5 seconds remaining, and now we lost the conviction judgment buff. And even if we want to try to activate our conviction judgment, we cannot do it because we have to wait 30 seconds in order to be active again. So that's a problem, and having to wait, that's DPS lost. So we're gonna continue trying, as we can see we don't got it yet. And this is just like wasting time on our DPS because we cannot use our awakening or dominion set actually. So we just got conviction judgment and we activate again. So that's the scenario that you don't want to be on. That's why you have to wait and rotate the other way around when you are under 30 seconds on your awakening skill. Okay, I just showed you my perfect suppression on how that class activates their conviction judgment, but this is my war dancer. It's a first intention. Depends a lot on conviction judgment and management with the dominion set. Okay, let me just show you how do I activate my conviction judgment. There are classes that are easier to activate conviction judgment than others. In this case, war dancer has a harder time to activate conviction judgment. So I have my conviction on my energy combustion, so every hit is gonna try to activate conviction, and then I have my judgment on my counter. So this is a multi-hit, which is very good because it has more chances to activate conviction, but I have to gamble my judgment on my Sky Shattering Blow because it only has 2 skills, as you can see, 1, 2. So I'm gonna try to see if I can get it. I do not always get it, even though the conviction judgment is ready to use. Let's show it. So we got conviction, and there we got it, judgment. Okay, so in this case it was easy. Sometimes it's not very consistent, even though you got it ready to use or ready to activate. You have to check your class and see if it's easy for your class to activate conviction judgment. I think that's everything for me, guys. Thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you learn how conviction judgment works.